fall of 2011, we went to the pet store down the street from my mom's house, and we went to play with the kittens like we usually do. And so we open up the cage, and this little fur ball just launches himself at us. And he was tiny, and he had a respiratory infection, and a kink in his tail, and an overbite, and his front legs were shorter than his back legs, and he seemed to have way too much fur for his body. And so we took him home. Because number one, he was adorable, and number two, we weren't sure if anyone else would ever take him home. And because of his respiratory infection, we kept him away from the rest of the cats for a little bit until that cleared up. And so he was in my room. He was actually in a guinea pig cage for a good bit of it, just to make sure that he couldn't get to the other cats and get them sick as well. So after that week in my room, he had bonded to me pretty strongly. And a lot of times I'd walk around the house with him just sitting on my shoulders because he was so tiny. He never really outgrew any of his issues. He did grow into his skin for the most part. The respiratory infection cleared up pretty nicely, but other than that, everything stayed. As well as he didn't really understand how to retract his claws, so he would get stuck in things a lot, which was adorable and pitiful. And there was something wrong with his digestive system. He had a bunch of different food intolerances, and his waist was never fully solidified. And sometimes he would miss the litter box. He'd be standing in it and still miss. He always knew just the thing to get into to cause the most trouble for everyone. He really liked mac and cheese. He tolerated the dog once he got used to him. He was both in love with and terrified of my roommate. He liked to sleep in my bed, but never on me. But if I had anyone else in my bed with me, then he would sleep on them instead. But he always wanted to be in my room at night, and he would usually demand to be let out in the morning before I woke up, but then he would want to come back a little bit later. He was really good with the kittens that he was around when he was younger, but as he grew older, he became not such a nice cat to the cats around him. He started a lot of fights, and usually was one to finish them too. Over the past few weeks, I started to notice that something was off. He wasn't eating very much. He lost a lot of weight. You could see and feel every bone. His eyes were kind of glazed over, and he didn't want to play. We took him to the vet, and normally he freaked out during car rides. Like, nearly pulled his claws out of his paws, freaked out. On the way to the vet that day, he meowed once or twice, but for the most part, he was pretty silent. His temperature was very low. He was down to about 4 pounds, which is half of the weight he was last summer. They did blood work, and most of the levels that they looked at were either off the charts high or off the charts low. They suggested a treatment plan, but it was way too expensive, and they said that they would be surprised if it worked. So we ended up having to put him down. We ended up going to the SPCA and bringing home a cat who we named Electra. She's a little under a year old from what we understand. This is her third home, reportedly because of issues with her past owners' living situations, but we plan to keep her for the rest of her life. She's very sweet, very cuddly, very playful. Helping her adjust to living with us is helping me adjust to living without Vader. She gets along well with everyone except perhaps the toddler, and we have to keep her worn out so she stops destroying things like toilet paper. She won't sleep in my bed right now. She prefers sleeping on my chair or on the floor next to my bed. Living without Vader still hurts, and every now and then it'll hit me that he's gone. But having Electra here has definitely helped. We've taken Electra to the vet and she's 100% healthy, so here's to hoping for more years than I got with Vader, and hopefully they'll be just as good as the years with him were.